I recreated this entire cinematic shot from Bonolota Express in Blender in under 7 days with a budget of exactly $0, no paid assets, no premium add-ons, and absolutely no paid Kit Bash libraries. And yes, I'm finally back. It has been 3 years since my last upload, which is basically an eternity in internet years. So, my bad. I'm sorry. But I promised I'd bring you guys high effort content, and I'm keeping my word. Today, I'm breaking down the entire process using nothing but free models from Sketchfab, GrabCAD, and sheer determination. So, let's get right into it, shall we? Before we begin, I need to discuss why I chose to recreate this specific scene from this specific movie. Bonolota Express is a Bangladeshi film directed by Tanim Noor, based on the novel named Kichukkon by the late Humayun Ahmed. The VFX team behind the movie was led by Tanvir Islam Riyad, a fellow Blender artist whom I have been following since 2020. His works are exceptionally high quality, and he used to take part in Clinton Jones render challenges, and also worked in an OTT TV series named Pet Kata Shaw, and did a really cool VFX shot for an episode. Seeing his work skill grow day by day really inspired me to work on environment art and develop myself further. The scene we are going to recreate is a CGI scene by itself, but the quality is just magnificent. You can see the lighting was done flawlessly, showing the train zoom by the truss bridge at moonlit night. Though the amount of photo scans the team used and also the level of detail they put into the vegetation and the train is just crazy. I mean, even words can explain it. This work is straight out of a Hollywood movie, if you ask me. Apart from the glazing, the scene doesn't show the train up close, and the mood and vibe is mostly set by the lighting and composition. Something I can do well, I guess. The main issue is, however, how am I gonna find so many models? Also, I really don't have a budget for the shot, as I'm broke, thanks to AI, but I do have some tricks up my sleeve. If you've been making animations or video game assets using Blender, I'm pretty sure you have heard of Sketchfab. If not, then it is a community-based 3D asset library where you can download free and paid 3D character models, environment assets, cool 3D artworks, and many more. Fortunately, I found some pretty good vegetation and ground assets in there. But the main star of the show was the train and the bridge. While an exact replica of the Bangladesh railway train is not available, I found this good-looking Indian railway train by this user and downloaded it. I also found some good quality wood trash and brick piles and added them to my collection. However, managing the truss bridge was troublesome. As I wanted to use a proper engineering accurate replica, I decided not to model it. But Sketchfab barely had any truss bridges available, so using my engineering animation knowledge, I turned to GrabCAD. GrabCAD is another collection of community-made 3D assets, but these are mostly for engineering and 3D prints. Searching around for a few minutes, I found this nice looking model of a truss bridge and decided to use it. Wait, why is this in step? Oh god, I gotta use Fusion again. Thankfully I have a student license though. Thank you, Brack. Okay, so let's open the file in Fusion. It looks nice. I'm gonna export it to USD to make things easy. And, why is the viewport lagging? Let's go to the edit mode. Enable statistics and holy cow, why are there 16,000 objects here? Damn man, the optimization is gonna be a nightmare. Can I still get a better model from GrabCAD? Nah, things don't look so good. Also, modeling this myself might cause some accuracy issues. You know what? Let's optimize this thing. And then I proceeded to fix the model myself instead of just making one. After doing some cleanups, removing half of the mesh and applying mirror modifier, then more cleanups, I finally have a usable bridge. Now all I had to do was apply array modifier and tweak some stuff. Using the viewport screenshot of the scene from Riyad Bhai's CGI breakdown video, I eyeballed the camera location and tweaked it later on after each iteration. I proceeded to create the ground of the lake using some basic sculpting, and then edited the bridge pillars a bit more to resemble the original CGI shot. I then placed a plane for the water and sculpted the ground further using the reference images. I didn't have to worry about the clipping areas as they would get masked off by the ground scans and foliage anyway. I then set up a basic nighttime HDRI to check the composition and added some textures to the bridge model. Okay, let's add a concrete texture to the pillars. Looks nice. I'm gonna separate the materials by geometry. Now the bricks. Wait, yeah, the unwrapping is broken, obviously. You know what, I'm gonna fix it later. Hey, the bridge has good UVs though. I guess it'll work. By the way, I'm using Blender Kit for the textures and HDRIs. It's a free add-on for Blender assets. You should definitely use it. It saves me so much time. Okay, let's do the IV now. I'm using an IV generator add-on by Baga. There was an option to pay and I paid $0. So technically it was free, I guess. Anyway, shout out to Baga, you're a goat. It took some time to figure out how the parameters changed the IV, but I got hang of it after a while. The bridge pillars look like they have some dark central patches in the middle. I guess I'll just paint it and mix it with the brick texture. I'll keep it super basic, as the IV would hide most of it. Let's adjust the IVs a bit more. I'm gonna use way more IV than the original. I'm gonna make the bridge look old and also make it look like the staff just forgot to trim the IVs and got lazy as the bridge is in good condition. It's just me. It's just me, okay? Probably real truss bridges even far away from civilization get princess treatment. I'll make mine look like Tarzan. Looks like Riyad Bhai used a large area light to fake the moonlit lighting on the bridge, so we're gonna do the same thing. It's pretty common to use large lights to fake moonlight, as most HDRIs don't represent the moonlight enough artistically. It's like painting lights in 2D artworks. I'm also gonna use some IV models at the edges to add some animated effects later on. They'll look good in the final version, trust me. For the train, I used the Indian train model downloaded from Sketchfab. I scaled it using a 165cm tall cube. Even though the model textures get masked by the lighting, I wanted to make the train look more like it's from Bangladesh. And this is where the texturing trick comes in. AI. Yeah, I know many people, especially artists, hate AI. I also hate the slop as much as the other artists, but not utilizing it as a tool to speed up your workflow seems a bit conservative to me. Anyway, I took the texture of the train model, added a reference photo of a Bangladesh railway train, and also a screenshot of the Indian train model with its original texture, did some prompt engineering, and got some usable results. Although UVs didn't line up that well, but as I said before, lighting will hide most of the issues. I followed the same process for the coach bogies. The bogies looked alright, though the texture didn't line up. To me, it seemed fine at a distance with the shadows. I then changed the metal textures, and the end result looked pretty impressive. I mean, from a random train model with some nano banana texturing, this is pretty cool. Before this workflow, I would use photos and make low poly background assets following the Ian Hubert method, and now with this workflow, you can do it even better, as changing the images has become more efficient. After appending the train to the bridge file, placing it on the bridge showed some scaling issues, which I then fixed immediately. Then after adjusting the framing, the scene started to take shape. Our major players of the shot are ready at this point. And now what remains are the trees, background assets, sky, fog, and other touch-ups. I started by importing the trees and plants, and then using a scale reference mannequin, I adjusted the scaling of the plants. I then realized that I would need a tin shed shack for the foreground and started to model it using a tin model I got from Sketchfab. You really don't need a model for this, as it is really simple to model yourself, but I'm lazy, what can I say. I just placed them following the reference cube I made and adjusted the rotation to make it look more realistic. You know, imperfection is realism. For the bamboo supports, I got a model from Sketchfab again and cut off the top a bit, and then placed it to hold the extended shed. Then I added a cube empty and parented the shack to it. I wanted to add some local political posters to the shack, as in Bangladesh it is pretty common to see the same design poster pasted on the walls of any man-made structures by 1,000 times. I just got some random poster design from the web, gave it to Nano Banana, added some prompts, and got a nice usable poster that looked decent. I took the poster to Photoshop and gave it some transparency for the ripped paper look, and then placed it onto the shack using shrink wrap modifier. Quick tip for decals: if you want to place paper posters on curved surfaces, subdivide it, add the shrink wrap modifier to the poster, set the target as the wall mesh, set snap mode to above surface, wrap method to project, move the poster closer to the wall, and then adjust the offset so the poster doesn't clip into the wall. Also make sure to set shading to shade smooth for the smooth lighting. I then duplicated and pasted the posters around the shack a few times, added some texture variation, and then proceeded to add a door to it. For the door, I followed the AI image to 3D mesh method. It was pretty simple to do. For the grass, I just used this downloaded grass model and set up a particle system on the terrain mesh. I made two wake paint variations, one for the background and the other for the foreground. I used this photo scan of wood pile and placed it close to the shack, as there is one close to the shack in the original scene. I then used this scan of the ground to hide the mesh overlappings at the points where the river and the terrain meet. I also used it to hide some empty ground patches, as grass never grows uniformly. As the train is just running in a straight line, we can just make it travel on a single axis. Here, I did some maths to figure out the train's speed. A Bangladeshi locomotive typically travels at 120 km/h speed. So, for a 6-second animation, using the linear speed formula S equal to Vt, if the converted velocity is 33.33 meters per second, the train will travel roughly about 200 meters in 6 seconds. So after setting the start frame train location outside the frame and the end frame location 200 meters to the front direction, we now have an accurate representation of the train speed. Physics is cool when you're not doing it for your university courses. Yeah, trust me, it's really worse. After adding and tweaking the train headlights, I added a volume cube to the environment. Using a cube instead of world volume keeps the volume rendering optimized and manageable. For the sky, I just got some good looking sky photograph I found online, used AI to change the moonlight angle, took the output to Photoshop, adjusted the colors and contrast, then imported it to the project file with a slight curvature for more 3D look. Yeah, I used a fake sky. There really weren't that many great night sky HDRIs, and I really didn't have either the equipment or the budget to buy a high quality HDRI. So yeah, fake it is. I did change the texture using the shader tab, gave it a slight amount of emission, and it looked pretty well. For the fog above the river, I downloaded a cloud PNG, gave it to Gemini, generated a variation, tweaked it in Photoshop, and then followed the same process of the sky to make it look like a real volumetric fog. At this stage, our environment started to look decent, but we need to add more animations to the foreground elements, the trees specifically. Now, I don't have the liberty to physically simulate wind on trees, as that might set my laptop on fire, so I used an armature on the tall coconut trees along with some inverse kinematics and procedural animation, and then added a wave modifier on the mango tree leaves. Using a wave modifier with properly tweaked parameters can give you a pretty realistic looking leaves breeze animation. I used this technique in a past project and it really sets the effect while keeping your system cool. I replicated the mango tree leaves animation to the other plants like the banana trees and whatever this plant is called. I downloaded a tree for free from Polyheaven, another 3D asset library, and placed it at the right side of the foreground area to match the reference and add more aesthetics to the scene. I gave it some orange light highlights to increase visibility. The tree has the same wave modifier fake wind animation as well. I then added some more trash and brick piles to the foreground to make it look more natural, as most abandoned riverbanks have litter all around them. Guys, please be more responsible with the trash. Don't just throw them anywhere, okay? It's bad for the environment, but makes the scenes look real though. I also added some fireflies to the lower right side, which I used in a past project. You can watch this video by the default cube to make your own fireflies using geometry nodes. It's not possible to just call the project final without some test renders, but to check out the state of the project, rendering it completely on a single device alone takes too much time and wears out the rendering device. Special thanks to Sheepit Render Farm for the rendering support. Although not sponsored, Sheepit has helped me pull through countless projects, helping me render them super fast. Sheepit is a community-based render farm where you can render your projects on other people's computers and also render their projects to earn credits that you can use to render yours. I have made a video about Sheepit back in 2023. It's a bit outdated and Sheepit has increased their storage quotas, but most of the basics are still the same. Check out the video if you want to know more. Anyway, I rendered a sample animation to see if all elements are working as intended. After about an hour, the project finished rendering. Initially, I found out that the river water shader was not behaving as intended. The ripples were moving too quickly. Also, there were some artifacts at the truss bridge IVs in this area due to some collection hierarchy issues, I guess. I fixed them all and rendered the scene again in 1440p resolution at 4096 samples. Now that we have our final render, we need to color grade and enhance details in post. I know that most people typically use Nuke or DaVinci Resolve's Fusion Compositor for a more industry standard workflow. I've been post-processing my renders using Photoshop's Camera Raw for about 3 years, so I wondered, what if I could get Photoshop to edit a video? And surprisingly, it was possible. Now I know most people would call this method an abomination, a cursed workflow in the creative community, but to me it was kinda cool. I imported the rendered frames as an image sequence, converted the video layer into a smart object, opened up camera raw filter, and adjusted the scene to my liking. I did all the basic tweaks to make the scene pop, and then used some linear gradient masks to further enhance the lighting. I then exported the video for the finishing touches in DaVinci Resolve. In DaVinci Resolve, I added a lens flare effect on the footage, keyframed it so the flare stays on the headlights of the train, animated the brightness flicker, and then added the film look creator effect to the scene. The film look creator emulates real film footage look onto digitally captured footages. As our scene is completely artificial, the film look would add some more realistic effects like halation, color toning, grain, and the beloved 2.4:1 film gate. After adjusting the effects and adding in some sound effects, we now have our final result. And there you have it, a movie scene recreated in Blender for zero money, zero paid assets in 7 days. Yeah, James Bond, you can stop please. Special thanks to all the creators in Sketchfab, GrabCAD, Blender Kit, and Polyhaven for the free assets, and the wonderful shepherds and sheeps from Sheepit for the render farm. Without these people, this project would have taken more than a month to finish. Kudos to the original artist Tanvir Islam Riyad for the magnificent work in Bonolota Express. Please feel free to go check out his YouTube channel, and if you understand Bengali, please watch Bonolota Express on Hoichoi. It was really fun to get back into environment designing, and it brought back so many memories of when I started learning Blender. Imagining going from this to this is mind-blowing. Although I used AI for some textures, I can assure you an AI-generated video will never beat pure human creativity. Use it to speed up your work, but not to replace work completely. That's it for today. Feel free to like the video and subscribe for more content. And I'll see you soon in another video. Till then, goodbye.